Good day, Internet. So it's the middle of the week right now, and I'm just going to start picking away at some things that will help us on the weekend, assuming that it's nice out. I'm going to bend up that piece of metal that goes on pretty much the entire right side of the driver's floor. So kind of the smaller curved piece that needs to fit this size. So it needs to be this shape, and I know that it needs to be 4 inches tall from the ground, and I know how long it needs to be, so it's going to be relatively simple. And we're finally going to start using this giant piece of sheet metal that I bought specifically for doing the floor. So we're going to cut it, yoink, and then we're going to bend it, and then we're going to see what else we feel like doing. Another couple things worth mentioning before we get onto that. I have painted the fuel tank. I just used some black Rust-Oleum rust paint to cover this thing. And previously, on the last episode, I said all you gotta do to clean your fuel tank is use hot water and detergent. And that was a good first step, but it certainly is not good enough. So I looked in there, and for some reason it actually looked worse. I don't know if the water started some extra surface rust on the inside or what, or if the detergent and water just kind of took everything and deposited it on the floor, on the ground of the bottom of the fuel tank. So I googled what you should use to clean out a rusty fuel tank, and every single result recommends a different thing. Everybody has a favorite. There's vinegar, I was considering using CLR, that was kind of my own idea. People have recommended diesel and ATF. People have recommended acetone and muriatic acid if you want to really go crazy. So I just walked into Canadian Tire with no real plans. I was going to pick up a product and give it a try. And I decided on this stuff. So this was 15 bucks for a liter. This is Rust Check Enviro Rust Wash. So it's for rust. It's not particularly aggressive. It doesn't have any solvents or horrible smells in it. Not that that would deter me. So we've had that in there for about 24 hours now, and I'm impressed so far. I think in a couple more days, it's going to be looking pretty acceptable. So I'll show you where we're at right now. I have lots of footage of this along the way, because it's actually really easy to use your phone with the flashlight on to look inside the fuel tank. It's actually pretty awesome being able to do that. So I'll show you where it is right now. Definitely still some work to go. I'm sure some of that is not actual rust attached to the metal and it's just sitting there. I am going to get the pressure washer out at some point and spray what I can from inside this hole and this hole. Mostly through this one. See what we can remove. So like, it seems like it may have gotten some crap off of the walls and then it left it there whenever I let water sit in it for a while. Because that actually seems potentially worse than when we started. But we're definitely removing rust now. If I bring the stuff over here, you should be able to see some little bits. Oh, come on. Let's get the bits. I know there's bits. Lots of little chunkies. We're definitely actually removing rust, which would definitely break off over time into the gasoline. So this is a very mandatory step. Also, we painted our sending unit. So that's pretty much ready to go on whenever we're done with the tank. Also went ahead and painted the rear drums just because they're brand new right now, and it's the best time to paint them if you're ever going to paint them. This is high temp matte black paint, and you can actually see this from outside the car if you look through the spokes. So having these not be all rusty will help complete the illusion that it's a nice car. Alright, it is Saturday, and it is forecasted to precipitate, almost certainly, in a couple of hours. So, I don't know what compelled me to get up at like 7 a.m., but I got up at 7 a.m. and we started welding stuff. I can barely begin to express how much better all this welding is going since I got that new wire. I wonder if the old stuff was, like, if it wicked up a bunch of moisture or oxidation over time, because it, like, was kinda old. But anyway, I'm actually able to lay beads down now on stuff that is new, at least. So, welding upside down is a little bit difficult, and I am a novice welder, so don't expect anything beautiful, but I'm pretty pleased with what we got going on here. Everything's actually moderately sealed with just the welding alone. So we have it jammed in there. This is very easy to kind of mock up in place because I have it jammed between, there's a fairly structural member behind here, and this is jammed between that thing and this piece of metal. So I drilled out a spot weld there and a spot weld that was like here, and it's so this is what we're working with. So I don't think that's going to take too much manipulation with the percussive devices in order to get it more flush. And I want to figure out a way to like get it perfectly in line, smooth, because that will be important. And then we will drill some small holes and we'll rivet it in place and perhaps hit it with the hammer a bunch until it's closer. And also I want to figure out, I want there to be like, I don't know, half an inch or something of overlap. So I want to like trim this because this stuff ain't no good and we have new metal to put in behind it. So I don't want to have any extra metal here because that's not buying us anything. Also, it'd be nice to get rid of these weird bumpy things because we don't need that where we're going. Alright. Nice and flat. Okay, we did some bending and some unbending and some trimming, and that, I just guessed and like shoved this in the vise and made it a little bit less aggressive, but that's actually really good. So, I don't think we're too many steps away from being able to weld this thing in. Let's just keep going at it. Alright, after, I think it's probably been a week that we had the rust wash in there. I just dumped the rust wash itself into a container, and it was nice and clear and green when it went in there. No longer. So, gross. And then we filled it up with, like, halfway with hot water and put a bunch of soap in it, and then I shook the crap out of it, and then I dumped it out. And it was, like, look at all these little specks. Hopefully that is the bulk of the rust removed. So we're gonna shake it around a little bit more and then take a look inside and see where we're at. Alright, the journey to clean out the fuel tank continues. So I'm pretty content with the lack of rust that we've got going on in there, but there's still a fair bit of dirt and grime and like thick stuff in very specific areas, like specifically down here. See if I can slush it. In like that area, there was like a lot of gross stuff. And this could be incorrect, but I'm wondering if like a mouse actually died in here, as grim as that is. Because I'll bring it up on screen, there was like a pile of gross goop there. And this thing smelled like, it didn't just smell like old gasoline, it smelled like, I don't know, I can only describe it as smelling like a barn, like a farm. And that smell's been getting better and better as I've been cleaning it out. And I was debating on what I was going to use next to try and get rid of that stuff. And I thought, I just picked up a can of brake clean, like the good stuff that shoots out of the can at 1,000,000 miles an hour. And that stuff seems to be working incredibly well. So I'm gonna leave that in there for a little while. So this, when I filled this up with water like 3, 4, 5 times and soap and like washed this out and like totally had it empty, and then I hit it with a bunch of brake clean, and this is what it's looking like now. Wow. So yeah, gross. It's yet another day, and I'm realizing that this gas tank is going to be a lot more of a project than I initially anticipated, but that's kind of an ongoing theme throughout this whole restoration, so I'm used to it at this point. So this tank, it's getting better, but I realized a couple of facts. There is a zinc coating on the metal from the factory. And whenever you use something like a rust stripper, it also will remove that. And then if you clean it with water or, you know, really anything, and then get all the crap out and then let it sit for even like a couple hours, it'll start looking like this again. So like we're getting all of the dirt out. Most of the dirt is gone, but it's just like re-rusting really quickly. And I think we're going to try acetone next. To break up the rust. I put a little bit of acetone in there as like a test, and it seems to be pretty good at getting this varnish off. And I also ordered some tank sealer, some POR 15 stuff that is made for tanks, and you basically, you clean it out in some way, I have to look it up, and then you dump, I assume, the whole can in, and then you swish it around so it makes contact with all the sides, and then you drip off the remainder, and then that dries. And then that seals your tank from rusting any further, and it won't re-rust really quickly like that. Because I can imagine if you removed all the rust, like you used a rust remover, and then you just ran the tank, even if it was perfectly clean whenever you put gasoline in it, unless you leave the tank full all the time, it's going to rust on the sides, it's going to rust on the sides pretty quickly. And then that rust's going to start getting into your fuel, and yeah, I didn't realize this was so complicated. I see why a lot of vehicles use plastic fuel tanks. Seems to like make a lot more sense. So there's a couple new side quests. How the hell are we going to get that filter pickup thing out of there? Because we can't put some bunch of thick paint in here. There's a thin mesh right there. And if we clog that up, then we're done. So we need, I assume that black little tab thing on the top is so that you can grab it with some sort of tool. Like, I might need to buy a pair of pliers. Like, I've seen the pliers at Princess Auto where they're like super long and then they have the small little grabby bit at the end. I wonder if that's like how you're supposed to do this. I might need to look up some YouTube videos, see if anyone's explained how the hell to get this out of here, because this is brazed. All of these are brazed. Later model RX7 fuel tanks, they are removable, so you can like remove the pickup system, but this is like in there. It's welded to the top, so I assume that you can go in there and grab it and then pull it down off of the tube. And yeah, I feel like it would also be wise to remove that before we dump a bunch of acetone in here. Probably should have removed it before I put any acetone in here, but I thought of that out of order. But I think it's going to be okay. I really put in like 100 milliliters maybe. So, yeah. I cleaned and removed the rest from my fuel tank, ready to paint the inside. Yeah, that's me. There's a screen on the end of the fuel pickup line. Yeah, same. When I coat it, it's going to get clogged. Yeah, me too. How can I remove this? Remove the tube. You can't do that. As far as I can tell, yeah, my man has an 83. No way to remove it. And basically everything after that is you're boned and nobody knows how to remove it. Okay. Alright, so here's the deal. I posted on the FB Facebook group asking if that thing was possible to remove, and people were basically like, dude, that tank looks totally fine. You don't need to remove that thing. You don't need to seal it. Just friggin' run it. And I am not interested in doing adding any more work to this project that I don't necessarily need to do. And while we have a little bit of surface rust, ultimately, it's not that bad. And I think we're into the point of diminishing returns, getting into sealing this and trying to remove any more rust, and especially trying to remove that thing, because I don't think it's physically possible. So we need to draw the line somewhere. So this buildup is annoying me because that wasn't there whenever we started. So I want to use acetone and clean some of that up at least. But I'm kind of worried that acetone is going to melt the plastic on that thing. It's yet another day. Got ourselves some industrial cleaning vinegar, 4 liters of it. This is where we are right now. So what we're going to do is we're going to put the vinegar in there for an undetermined amount of time. And then we're going to rinse all the vinegar out, and then we're going to flush it out with water. We're going to get all the water out, and then we're going to put gasoline pre-mixed with 2-stroke oil in there. Just like a little bit. I don't want it to be too heavy whenever I install it in the car. But I'll put like a liter or 2 in there, and then I'll shake it around a bunch, and that'll get oil on all of the surfaces, and then I'm never going to think about it again. And everything's going to be fine. I hope. Doesn't really smell like normal vinegar. Did I get something stupid? Ready to use industrial cleaning vinegar. No mix, no rinse formula. Fresh, clean scent. I guess it sort of smells like vinegar. Maybe they're just trying to cover it up. Whatever it is, it's going in here. If you can't tell by the tone of my voice, I'm getting a little sick working on this fuel tank. I did not take a very smart route with cleaning it. And I think my standards are way too high. And I wasted way too much time trying to get it spick and span perfect, when really, during all that time that I was spending, it was just rusting more. Come on, fix the rust. I don't have all day. I do. Yeah, I think it's starting to break stuff up. I was just going to be upset if I spent another $10 on another useless product. Because all we have is extremely light surface rust. Really, this step's probably unnecessary. I want to get a picture of it looking pretty damn nice before I put fuel in it. Just so I can sleep easy at night, you know. So, this will be in here for a couple days. This has been in here now for about 1 minute. And, yeah, I think this is going to work. Yeah, I work out. And other things, I am cleaning up the fuel tank straps and repainting them and repairing this one. The other one is intact, but this one, there was a weak point here, so whenever I tried to, you know, just kind of bend it, and because this thing is supposed to be kind of flexible, it just kind of folded right there. So I trimmed it back a bit further, and we welded in a new piece, and that's what we're working with. I'm pretty pleased with this side by side with the original. Wherever the hell that went. Here it is. So, that guy is pretty much ready for paint. This one's not quite ready for paint. Still got some black crap that I have to remove. And on the topic of paint, one of my buddies who watches my videos recommended this paint for all of my exposed metal. This was 180 bucks for a gallon, so way too expensive and way too much paint. I would have bought less if I could have. But this stuff's claim to fame is that it is incredibly tough. And one of our local repair spots uses this on truck frames. So this should be plenty fine for all of our exposed metal. One downside is that it is extremely aggressive with the fumes. Like, the lady at the store thought I was insane for purchasing this because I made the mistake of telling her that I was doing auto body repair, and she was like, "What the hell? This is not for that." And I was like, just sell it to me. And she was like, "Okay, but like use a respirator. This stuff is like insanely nasty." And I did a test area out on the car. It's the driver's rear seat where a person would sit if we didn't have the rear cubbies. And it seems to be pretty good stuff. I laid it on way too thick because I used a paintbrush and it was cold out. But we got ourselves... Princess Auto didn't have the handle for this size of roller, but they had the rollers. So I made one out of RC car crawler links, which I find absolutely hilarious. I whipped this together in like 2 seconds. And we got a paintbrush if we feel like using it. We got this system, and this is way bigger than I imagined it was going to be. But I might actually end up using this on my house, because that's what it's intended for, is you can pop the cap open and you put paint on the inside of it, and then it seeps out. But I don't, this thing's huge. I don't want to, like, have to clean out this much paint every time that I want to use paint. So we got this tiny little fella, and these refills are really cheap. And we got this paint holder thing. And yeah, we're ready for whenever we're done of the floor. We are going to lay some of that stuff on the top and on the bottom whenever it's warmer out and nicer out. And the reason that I'm talking about this is I'm going to lay some of this stuff on these. So we're going to try the roller out and paint these in the bathroom, and hopefully I don't have to evacuate my house due to the fumes.